Hundreds of people living on Portland streets are getting help, but there's still a long way to go. This morning, Fox 12 investigates the progress that the city of Portland is making when it comes to the homeless crisis.
Investigative reporter Adrian Thomas joins us live in studio with that story this morning. Adrian.
Shauna, Bonnie, last year, Portland enlisted the help of the California-based nonprofit Urban Alchemy. They were tasked with operating some of the city's safe to rest villages and large outdoor shelters the city calls temporary alternative shelter sites. Despite demand far outweighing supply, city leaders, Urban Alchemy staff, and those who've benefited from these shelters feel progress is being made. In spring of last year, the city of Portland signed a 5-year contract worth $50 million with the homeless services nonprofit Urban Alchemy to operate several shelter sites across the city to get people off the streets, connected to services, and ultimately housed permanently. One of Urban Alchemy's first large sites in Portland was the Clinton Triangle. It's a 160-person pod-style village set up in an industrial space between train tracks and Southeast Powell Boulevard and Southeast Milwaukee Avenue. Jeffers Dickey is the operations manager for Urban Alchemy in Portland. We met him at the Clinton Triangle site to hear how the location has progressed during its first year.
We've learned from our mistakes, we've pivoted, we've moved in different directions. We're trying to create a culture here and an atmosphere where people can come in and decompress, get over the trauma that they've experienced on the streets.
Dickey says the Clinton Triangle and other Urban Alchemy sites accept anyone through the city's referral process that are seeking help, and no one is turned away due to substance abuse. Dickey says that most local Urban Alchemy site employees are in recovery, have been previously incarcerated, or experienced homelessness. Dickey says their experiences are impactful.
And so they're constantly counseling and coaching our residents into like, hey, there's a better way, there's a better life for you. And then we offer, we could get them into detox in the different detox centers around Portland. And sometimes those detox centers will funnel them into, recovery beds.
We also met Patrick Jensen at the Clinton Triangle site, who is now in permanent housing thanks to his time at the Clinton Triangle. He says he spent the first half of this year living in the Clinton Triangle after experiencing homelessness 6 months prior. He tells us he wound up living in a campsite along the Willamette River in South Portland after his commercial cleaning business took a downturn in the aftermath of COVID-19. Jensen says his experience with Urban Alchemy staff gave him the boost he needed to get his life back on track.
Well, they all come from the same backgrounds, and they're very personable, very likable, and everybody has the same goal. Get you back on your feet, get you into housing as quickly as we can, because we know once you get into housing, your confidence level just absolutely builds. I've been out for 2 months in my own place now, and I can't tell you my confidence level is it's through the roof.
According to the latest data from Portland's shelter services, from July 2022 to the end of this past June, over 1,800 people have been served in shelters managed by the city of Portland, with a handful of those sites being operated by Urban Alchemy like Clinton Triangle. According to the data, people exit these shelters after 100 days on average, with 42% landing in permanent housing destinations, while the others end up in temporary housing, other shelters, or returning to homelessness. Brandy Westerman is Portland's emergency humanitarian director overseeing city homeless initiatives. She views Urban Alchemy as a critical partner for Portland, but knows there's still a massive need.
I think that the situation hasn't changed dramatically in terms of our supply and demand ratio. So we are operating at capacity on every given night across all 9 shelters that the city is currently involved with. The demand far outstrips the supply there.
While Multnomah County's latest point-in-time count found over several thousand people experiencing homelessness on Portland streets and other parts of the county on any given night, Westerman believes that each person removed from the streets with city or county resources is a victory.
Some of them came without an ID or a birth certificate in their possession. Others may have needed to work through past debt or other mental or behavioral or physical health issues. And so when somebody gets into housing, that's something to celebrate. Of course, the journey doesn't stop there, and there's significant work to do to help people sustain that housing and move forward with other aspects of their lives.
Brandy Westerman also told us the city is also on track to open 292 more shelter units in the near future, a combination of safe parking sites for people living in vehicles and other tiny home units. Coming up tomorrow, right here on Good Day Oregon, we'll get an inside look at the permanent housing one man is now living in after he spent time living in the Clinton Triangle, getting help after experiencing homelessness. Shauna, Bonnie.
Yeah, really good to see, you know, the progress after 1 year. Now, when it comes to the process that the city uses to get people into these into the housing, what exactly does that look like?
Yeah, so first things first, these shelter sites run by the city, they're not first come, first serve. You can't just walk up and request a space. So the city has specific outreach teams that go to different campsites around the city, go to areas that are deemed higher priority, perhaps, you know, campsites that have a lot of people in an area that might be blocking a sidewalk in a part of the city that has a lot of other people living in apartments or condos nearby, or businesses, things like that. So they really are, the city has said that they're targeted in going to certain areas where they do outreach and offer shelter to people, you know, to get them off the streets and ultimately into housing.
Wow, that's interesting though, right? That if somebody actually wanted to go, they wouldn't get to unless they're part of this targeted location. So that's an interesting conundrum.
And, you know, another thing to mention too, when we first covered this, you know, we went down to California to see Urban Alchemy in action. One of their sites in Los Angeles was a walk-up site where people could request, you know, a space if there was any available. So it'll be interesting to see if, you know, the city changes their approach in the future.
Or maybe we will ultimately have one of those. Who knows? All right, Adrienne, thank you. Really interesting.